A reading from Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. I, the teacher, when king over Israel and Jerusalem, applied my mind to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to human beings to be busy with. I saw all the deeds that are done under the sun, and see, all is vanity and a chasing after wind. I hated all my toil in which I had toiled under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to those who come after me. And who knows whether they will be wise or foolish, yet they will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. So I turned and gave my heart up to despair concerning all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes one who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave all to be enjoyed by another who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. What do mortals get from all the toil and strain with which they toil under the sun? For all their days are full of pain, and their work is a vexation. Even at night their minds do not rest. This also is vanity. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The psalm today. A reading from Colossians. So if you have been raised with Christ, seek things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever in you that is earthly: fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming on those who are disobedient. These are the ways you also once followed when you were living that life. But now you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have stripped off the old self with its practices and have clothed yourself with the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge according to the image of its creator. In that renewal, there is no longer Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave and free, but Christ is all and in all. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But Jesus said to him, "Friend, who set me to be a judge or arbiter over you?" And he said to him, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly, and he thought to himself, "What should I do, for I have no place to store my crops?" Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God." The Gospel of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Jesus said, one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. It does not consist in the abundance of possessions. This is wisdom shared through a parable about a man who is happy to live in a world of, it's all about me. Consider the focus of the man presented in this story. What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. I will store my grain and my goods. I will say to myself, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. No less than 10 times the man refers to himself or his stuff. But one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. The image presented in the parable reminds me of the comedian George Carlin. Remember, he had a monologue about obsessive accumulation of stuff. You got your stuff with you? I bet you do. Guys have stuff in their pockets. Women have stuff in their purses. Stuff is important. You got to take care of your stuff. You got to have a place for your stuff. That's what life is all about. Trying to keep a place for your stuff. That's all your house is, a place to keep your stuff. If you didn't have so much stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You could just walk around all the time. A house is just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. You can see that when you're taking off in an airplane. You look down and see all the little piles of stuff. Everyone's got his own little pile of stuff. I Googled storage units in the Horsham area just for the fun of it. There were 120 places within a 10-mile radius. It seems that 1 in 11 Americans pays for a storage unit. 1 in 11. As of 2013, there is an official mental health diagnosis known as hoarding disorder. We even have TV shows dedicated to the topic. Carlin seems to be correct. A house is a place to keep your stuff. And there are companies dedicated to the task of helping you get rid of your stuff. When I first checked the lectionary to see what the appointed gospel text for today would be, I read this parable and I thought, swell, what does this have to do with baptism and entrance into the Christian community? Well, Theodore Augustus, this is the world into which you were born. A world that thinks the more you have, the happier you will be. Now, surely since June 2nd, your parents have been reminded that stuff means nothing. They have you, their firstborn. You have already brought such love and joy into their lives, and they would gladly give up all their stuff for you. Giving it all up for you. Theo, that is exactly what Jesus did for you and for the rest of us. He gave up everything, including his very life. But it all started before that. According to God's strict judgment, the unbelieving world was condemned through the flood. Yet through God's great mercy, those who believed, Noah and his family, were saved. God also led our ancestors through water onto dry land, foreshadowing the washing of your holy baptism. Even God's Son Jesus was baptized and sanctified and instituted all waters to be blessed and be a blessed flood and a lavish washing away of all sin. But even though we are washed and claimed in baptism, we are still in bondage to sin. And so we are called to live a life in relationship with Jesus, who calls us to the water and to the Word and to his Holy Supper. So Theo, no matter how wealthy you get or how many possessions you accumulate, nothing is as valuable as the grace you will receive this day. You already have the best parents and grandparents and sponsors and extended family. But Theo, be aware of wealth. Because of our sinfulness, it has always been cause for division and greed and envy and jealousy. Tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me. Jesus doesn't take the bait. Instead, he tells a parable. We should consider its wisdom daily, because the sad thing is that you have been born into a world of greed. A nation that claims to be built on Christian faith, yet is so steeped in capitalism that Jesus probably wouldn't recognize it. We spend more money on our pets than on care for our elderly or educating our children. Aristotle, Gandhi, John Paul II, among others, have said that a nation or society will be judged on the basis of how it treats its most vulnerable and helpless members. The divide between rich and poor in our country is ever widening, in part because of the many "it's all about me" members. Members who seldom or never give a thought to the least of these, the very ones Jesus was most concerned about. You, Theodore Augustus, are fortunate to have been born into a family that is committed to their faith, a family that worships and works to grow in faith, a family that serves Jesus Christ and is distressed by some of what they see going on in the world. You will learn these lessons early on because they know that it is a challenging world, and it is best for you to know the truth from the start. That it is wrong for a rich nation to not be able to provide food and health care for its people. That it's dangerous for a leader to talk about fellow citizens as if they are the enemy, or about other countries of the world as though they are excrement. That one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. The parable ends with God saying to the selfish, "It's all about me, man. You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be?" So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves but are not rich toward God. Eugene Peterson's The Message translation reads this way: "Fool, tonight you will die. And your barn full of goods, who gets it?" That's what happens when you fill your barn with self and not with God. Rich with God, it says. How does one do that? Perhaps it is to notice the world that God has created for us. The scent of garden flowers, the delicate composition of a newborn's fingers and toes. Maybe it is awakening to the early morning song of birds outside your window, a gentle breeze across your forehead, or that first sip of morning coffee. These are all signs, all reminders of the one who claims Theo as his own today and asks that those who dare to make promises keep them. And you will be asked to make promises, not to me, but to God. Will you keep them? Theo, one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. It never has, and it never will. As they say, you can't take it with you, with one exception. Theo, what you receive today, you can take with you: the Holy Spirit and God's promises of unconditional love and eternal life.